Welcome everyone. It's time to buckle up as we go on this journey of my personal OD library. Over the next 10 minutes or so, you'll take a look at all things OD through my eyes. Here's my disclaimer. It's a fun ride that tests my creativity as this project relates to my future plans. I chose to carry the theme of a creative journey throughout this presentation because I think it best sums up my personal and professional life. How can we do something surprising and memorable with our lives? How can we turn this job, in small but important ways, into a better representation of ourselves? Most of us would easily say that we are about our jobs. That's obvious from the late hours we all keep. So then, it is bigger than work, isn't it? It is about us. Jerry Maguire's famous manifesto, while fictional, provides a summation of this OD library. In it, you will find resources, resumes, methodologies, etc., but you will find so much more. This OD library represents me on many levels, not just professional. Because my dream job is to do my own thing as an entrepreneur, there isn't one job description that sums up the work. This quote from serial entrepreneur Ken Jennings offers a great description of my dream job. We do what others won't do, so that later on we have the freedom to do what others can't. I've spent the past 10 years as a leader in the healthcare field. Through the trials and tribulations of learning leadership on the job, I found my ultimate path to be as a maximizer of human performance. I've worked with the Flow Genome Project for the last year to study the state of flow. Through this experience, it has become my belief that everyone is capable of everything. When we're in the zone, or in the pocket as many musicians refer to it, time stops and we become single-minded, at times doubling our productivity. This flow state is something that I believe is teachable. How we teach it is something that I'm exploring. My dream job is assisting organizations, teams, and individuals to find flow to perform to their maximum capabilities. Here's a quick 1-minute video to better help you understand the state of flow and why it's my belief that bottling this could lead to a more productive, innovative, creative, and engaged individual.
One of the most interesting phenomenons of human beings is creativity. Our ability to transform the world, our ability to imagine new possibilities, our ability to probe the perimeter of possibility, to remix the present, to see into the adjacent possible. Creativity is just connecting things, as Steve Jobs says. People that go into these creative zones, athletes when they get in the zone, scientists when they experience their eureka moment, musicians and artists when they enter into these flow states. These flow states are starting to be understood thanks to neuroscience. The part of the brain for self-editing literally goes dim. These artists, these athletes, these executives put in thousands of hours of practice at their craft. But it's that moment, or moments, that time stands still and focus becomes razor sharp. That moment of flow when perfection is no longer about control. It's about shutting down the lateral prefrontal cortex and entering the realm of flow, where dreams become very possible and even more real. That space, or the headspace of flow, where dreams are born.
Instead of diving into a job description, I opted to pick the brains of two individuals that have experienced success in the startup world. In speaking to them, we formulated a list of 10 characteristics or attributes of successful entrepreneurs. I'll let you read these for yourself and sum it up by referring back to my leadership biography for Jane Wheeler's 60/80 class. I've lived without fear, sometimes to my own detriment. Whether it was as a youngster jumping off a 40-foot bridge or professionally pushing the envelope beyond where my superiors were comfortable, this lack of fear has been the driving force behind my success to this point. It doesn't end here, as my personal worst-case scenario is leaving something left unexplored. In looking at my current professional experience versus that of my future desire, I noticed three major gaps. First and most obvious is my lack of experience raising rounds of funding for a startup company. Secondly, I've been a bit of a one-trick pony in the professional arena, sticking within the healthcare field. And finally, I see myself as a maximizer of human performance as an entrepreneur. In order to get the most out of others, I must first put the most into myself in terms of education and knowledge. My OD portfolio will be kept on my blog at bradclarkblog.wordpress.com. In this emerging library, I have a section to explain who I am, a minute-by-minute look at the growth of my personal change method, a history of projects thus far in the EMOD program, my reading library, a resume, and finally a personal blog where you can check out my musings of the day. In addition to the website, I have stored my work on Google Drive and provided links to those in the site. Another tool that I use for storage is Evernote. It allows me to store documents as well as URLs for important sites. So where do we go from here? And how does all this equate to me getting to my professional goal? The answer is rather straightforward. This catalog of OD-related content serves as a public portfolio of my work, which lends the ultimate legitimacy when I look to take the next step. It's easy to talk of all your successes. I've done that for the past 10 years. It's a whole different story to display that talk to a public audience. This is my work in the OD field to date and will serve as such well into the future. Welcome to my blog and hub for my public portfolio of the OD work that I've completed in the EMOD program. We'll start to explore the site briefly as I run through a glance at how to access the features of my OD library. We start at the About page where a brief bio on how I got the blog started are made available. The next tab houses my personal change method. I will dive into much greater detail of this model later in the video. This is just the beginnings of formulation that is sure to change over the next year. One can also find the projects that I've completed thus far in the EMOD program with links to the content. If we navigate to one of those links, you can see how we access each document via my Google Drive. Our next stop will be on my emerging reading library. It's my hope that I'll also add a to be read section as I've started to compile a list of books that I hope to read once I've completed the EMOD program. For now, you'll find a few of my personal recommendations to get you off to a good OD start. They did for me. On the final tab, you'll find a link to my resume made available for public consumption. And finally, we navigate back to the home page. As we scroll down, you'll find a few of the blog posts that I have written recently. I touched briefly on my Evernote page, so we'll jump over there to show you the uses of this invaluable tool. As you can see, I use this mostly to store links to websites and articles that I found useful or interesting, but it also serves as a great tool to catalog what can be an overwhelming amount of content. Now I'll dive into greater detail of the change model that I've so often referred to. You were able to get a peek at the mind map on the website. Now I'll dive into some greater detail of this project as it relates to my emerging change model. First, let me summarize how my change model has been built. Through the lens of the 6 design elements in the Mastering Change article, we dissected 8 whole-scale collaboration and change methods. In summation of those methods, my mind map revealed 6, as I term them, non-negotiables. Number 1, off the system branch, was diversity. The second, from the purpose branch, emerged engagement. From the journey branch was collaboration. The fourth element, evidence, brought out non-negotiable number 4, sustainability. The fifth branch, principles, spawned the responsibility non-negotiable. And finally, our models branch evoked our final non-negotiable, transformation. I will dive into greater detail in a minute, but wanted to introduce the final product of the mind map assignment, the non-negotiable change model. The non-negotiable change model centers with an organization's values, principles, and mission. Those serve as a feeder system for our 4 key components of organizations: systems, culture, the people, and outputs. For each of these components, I found corresponding themes in terms of the 6 non-negotiable. An organization's system allows them to avoid being the latest flavor of the month and ultimately determine sustainability. A system guided by sound values and vision is one that is long for today's business world. More and more successful companies are honing in on culture as a key performance indicator. Organizations that foster a collaborative culture are reaping the rewards in terms of employee and customer engagement, financial viability, and overall success of the organization. I can tolerate a lot, but when I get fed up with something, it requires a huge investment to take the steps needed for transformation. In whole-scale collaboration and change, I believe transformation is the desired outcome in most instances. The people that make up our organizations must represent engagement and diversity. If collaboration and change are to happen, it requires engagement at all levels of the organization. A lot of good strategies or ideas fall by the wayside on the back of disengaged individuals tasked with carrying out strategies and ideas. Ever sit in a meeting or a collaborative event and everyone looks, talks, and thinks the same? Groupthink is one surefire way to ensure your organization will struggle relating organizational success to employees and inevitably your customers. If the values, vision, and principles truly serve as the organization's feeder system, it becomes our collective responsibility to ensure the outputs and services we offer are reflective of what is at the center of our organization. Our journey has concluded. To recap, in roughly 10 minutes, I've explored everything from where my passion lies, to a library of my work, to an emerging model that I will continue to tweak throughout the next year. Hopefully, I've not just met the requirements of this project, but given you a deep insight into why I feel so passionately about organization development and how it relates to my future. To close out this visual journey of my OD library, I've chosen a quote from Howard Thurman. Thurman's famous words have graced my bathroom mirror for a decade to serve as a daily reminder to seek out my greater purpose, and when I find it, continue to reinvent it. Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go and do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive.